Good day to Dr. Marina. My name is Lee Kai-shen. My metric number is 159746 and I will be introducing my group members for this presentation. We have Choy, metric number 151205, Muhammad Irfan Arif bin Muhammad Faruddin, metric number 156721, and Choy, metric number 157264. Next, we'll move on to the overview of our presentation. First, we'll look at the text that we have chosen for analysis. Then, we'll move on to a brief introduction of textuality. The third part will be the analysis and findings, and finally, the last part will be the conclusion. Now, let's take a look at the text chosen. The text is an article titled "Call for More Focus on Disabled," written by Ali Fazaniza of The Sun Daily. The link is provided in the slides and you can take a few minutes to read through it before we move on to the next part. The next part would be the introduction to textuality, and I will pass the presentation over to Choy.
Hi, my name is Choy, and I will start off the presentation for my group, and I will start off with the introduction. So before I start off with the meaning and definition of textuality, I would like to talk about what is a text. So a text, there are various senses in which a piece of writing may be said to be text, which makes that a text could just be the use of language and putting it into a piece of paper with ink or carbon from your pencil. So arguments written on a piece of paper without any evidence is a text, right? So plainly expressing dissatisfaction could also be a text because it's just putting ink onto the piece of paper with language and everybody understands it. And slander could also be a text. So to make a text which makes sense, it has to be a combination of analytic, logic, and theoretical relations that is brought together with the threads of language. And to make the text a text is to include a complex set of features. So linguists has a property. What makes text text is called textuality. So this object that it presumes by this linguist assumes when it reflects certain social and communicative constraints. So that is what makes text a text. And textuality becomes a property to a complex linguistic object. So textuality is the outcome of the workings of shared cognitive mechanics evident in texts and readings. And this is a direct quotation by Newbert and Fried in their book Translation as Text. So the other definition of textuality given by the linguist is the study of textuality involves looking at words that function powerfully in our world and considering both what they mean and how they mean. And this is a direct quotation by Scholes. And we'll take a look at what linguists Robert Elaine D. Lebrun and Wolfgang Wessler address the 7 criteria of textuality as. So we have 1, which is cohesion, 2, coherence, 3, intentionality, 4, acceptability, 5, informativity, 6, situationality, and 7, intertextuality. And I will pass on to the part of cohesion.
Good morning to Dr. Malina and my fellow friends. I, Choy, metric number 157264, would like to talk about cohesion and coherence. Cohesion is typically described as the grammatical and lexical relationships that connects a text and contribute to its meaning. It involves micro levels such as the words, the phrases and sentences, and how they are connected with each other to form a whole complete meaning. This sentence, for example, meanwhile, former Senator Padmavati Krishnan said Malaysia should place greater emphasis on improving the first mile and last mile transit connectivity for PWD. It's cohesive because it is grammatical. The adverb meanwhile act as a connective from previous sentence. The noun phrase former Senator Padmavati Krishnan is the subject, while the word said is the verb of the sentence, comes along with the noun Malaysia, the word phrase should place, the noun phrase greater emphasis, and the prepositional phrase on improving the first mile and last mile transit connectivity for PWD. Coherence, however, refers to the macro-level characteristics of a text that allow it to make sense as a whole. If a text is semantically meaningful, or if the concepts follow one another logically to create a comprehensible whole, then we can say that it is coherent. It means the whole idea within discourse must be focused on the same theme. This discourse in the example is coherent. For example, there's a repetition of words which is employers. Synonyms also present in the discourse like blind and visually impaired. Besides, the ideas within this discourse is connected to each other. Both of the sentences are related to the idea of blind employees. That's all from me, and now I pass this to the next presenter.
Thank you, Choy Hung. Now I'll continue with the third criteria of textuality, which is intentionality. What is intentionality, you might ask? Intentionality is the aim of the writer behind his or her text. It is essentially what the writer wants us to think, to question, or to answer after reading the text. The writer wants the readers to see and understand their intention, their aim. Their aim is like drawing a bow at a target. The example that was taken from the text is the sentence, although the Women, Family and Community Development Ministry has stressed that 1% of vacancies in the public sector is meant for people with disabilities, this has yet to gain traction, she said, adding that a solution must be implemented to ensure such job placements are met. From this example, we can see that the writer wants us to acknowledge the problem of persons with disabilities, PWD, not getting job placements, and that a solution must be implemented to overcome the problem. How can we see the writer's intention? From this example, the writer quotes a speaker that gave the fact that 1% of vacancies are meant for PWD, but it hasn't gained traction. It means it is either not implemented or poorly managed. Then, this leads us to the second aim, which is highlighted by the last part of the sentence, that is, a solution must be implemented to ensure such job placements are met. This last part of the sentence tells us the writer wants a solution to be implemented to overcome this problem faced by the PWD. Next, we'll move on to the next criteria, which is acceptability. Acceptability is all about recognition from the readers of the text. Acceptability relies on the reader's attitude towards the text written. Do the readers find the opinions, statements, or arguments from the writers acceptable or unacceptable? If the text is acceptable, then it is considered as having acceptability. The example, I realize there is a gap, and although we train local council officers, there are still no specifications for design for PWD accessibility. This must be rectified. This sentence is taken from the text and is an example for acceptability. The point made here from the writer is that there are no specifications for design for the accessibility of PWD. This point made by the writer shows acceptability. Why? Well, we can see that the writer is making her point acceptable by quoting knowledgeable and reputable people of their respective field. which in this case is Dr. Siti Maria Mahmud, the Selangor Executive Councillor and Chairman of the State Public Health, Unity, Women and Family Community. We see that this person being quoted is someone qualified and have extensive knowledge regarding PWD. So we as readers find the point made by the writer acceptable and accept it. That will be all from me. I will pass the presentation over to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Muhammad Irfan Arif bin Muhammad Fahruddin and my metric number is 156721. I'm going to continue our presentation on informativity and situationality. As you can see on the slide, the example from the text for informativity is there are 579,150 PWD registered under the Social Welfare Department, which manages the PWD registry. Informativity purpose is to affect the readers beneficially, which means to provide new knowledge or information for the readers to gain something new. Thus, the text is providing information that explains to us that PWD registry was managed by Social Welfare Department and total PWD registered are 579,150. For situationality, the text example that we chose to present is she said the government should roll out door-to-door transit services, which include vans with hydraulic ramps, to take physically impaired people to and from public transport stations. Situationality is a condition where people acquire knowledge that something is happening around you and you understood about it immediately after you have read the text. As you can see from the slides, people already knew about the door-to-door transit services and the things that occurred, which is the services should be rolled out, is happening and people were alert about it.
For intertextuality, in simple terms, for its meaning, it will be traces of other texts, either read or heard by other texts, implementing it onto own words. So, for my example, from the news article that we are analyzing, it is as such, the problem does not lie with the PWD, person with disabilities, but with those who are able-bodied, they do not know how to interact with a PWD. So this is a direct quotation from a person speaking where the author has heard it from and has recorded it and has its transcript and using it onto her own words. So the author utilizes what she has heard and applying it onto the article, which she is trying to deliver according to her topic to attack. To conclude our group's presentation, a proper implementation of the actuality criteria is what makes a text a text. So without proper implementation of actuality criteria could cause a topic to become misleading. So it could be that a topic is correct on what the author is trying to deliver, but the content of the work of the author is completely unrelated to the topic, and that is what is misleading about it. And that is where coherence and cohesion comes in. So the 7 criteria of textuality becomes a guideline on how to make a text much more relevant to the reader according to the expectations set by the author. So when the author is creating his or her own works, there is always an expectation created for the reader to know what is actually going on when they have the topic and reading the first few sentences of the product of the author. So that is all from us. Thank you very much.